Hey everyone, welcome back. We're talking about higher order functions. That's just a fancy way of a function that takes or returns other functions. Let's jump right in and I'll show you how it all works. In JavaScript, functions are just like any other value. You can pass them into other functions or return them from functions. A function that does this is called a higher order function. We have an example of a higher order function here in Visual Studio Code. It's with the name of greet and it's passing in a parameter of name. Then within that function, we're returning a function to say hello to that name. Down below, we're calling this function greet, passing in the name of Anna, and then storing this in a variable, say hi to Anna. Essentially what we're doing here is we are saying we want to run this function later when it's necessary. And then when that is, that time does come, we're going to call that function like so, saying say hi to Anna. That's essentially the concept. And because there's a function stored in this variable, we're prepared to then later on say hello Anna, and we can actually see that in the console here just to run it. And so once this is ready, you'll see hello Anna in the console. Now, this is essentially the core pattern of higher order functions. The other pattern is going to be passing it in as a parameter, or really an argument to a parameter, and that's going to be in the form of a callback. This pattern, functions returning functions, is powerful because it lets us save behavior to run later. That's exactly how event listeners and many JavaScript tools work. addEventListener is a higher order function because it gives another function to run later. And that is what I referred to earlier about being a callback. Button.addEventListener. On a click of that button, we are then running this anonymous function or callback. Now I have an example I want to show you of an e-commerce website, essentially. And within this e-commerce site, think of a function where we're adding products to the cart. Now how this works is, here we have this example. And what's going to happen is in this function, create add to cart, we are passing in a parameter product ID and then running, or really returning a function right away. So, and this function is essentially going to say, let the user know that we've added the product to the cart. And so what's happening down below, further down, is we then store this in a variable like the first example we did today. And we are saying, create add to cart, shirt -123 is our product that we're storing. So we store this in a variable add shirt. And then later on in the process, when it becomes time for that user to, add this shirt to the cart, we're then going to run that function. And that's going to be right here, add shirt, you can think of. And we're just going to call this to the console just so you can see it. And if we run this, you'll see added product shirt 123 to cart. Now, what's happening here is how JavaScript works is JavaScript runs right away. So the page loads up. JavaScript likes to go, right away. It goes from top down to start running things. And, in order to work around this, we have to be able to have these loaded states you can think of where we store things in variables to then run things when we want to. And that's the whole idea of addEventListener as well. We run things when we need some action after a user does something. So that's what we're doing here. We have, we want to run this create add to cart function to be ready for the user. And so that's what we're doing here. We're running it right away, and then we're storing in a variable. And then later on, what's going to happen is rather than console.log this to the console add shirt and calling it like so, it's going to be more like an event listener. And so this is what it's going to look like, button.addEventListener. Here we have a click action. So on the click event, when the user clicks the button to add the shirt, we're then going to give them a message saying you added this product to the cart. And so that's essentially the concept here of the power and benefit of higher order functions. This is how real e-commerce buttons work. You create a function that remembers the product and runs later when clicked. These are loaded functions. The logic is ready, but just delayed. This is why you can have many buttons on a page, each with their own behavior, because each button's function is loaded and ready, but runs only when clicked. You don't want your cart logic running when the page loads, only when the user clicks. Return functions let you save the behavior for later. And this is found in a lot of real life situations, such as, waiting for, a user to act by clicking a button, API calls, animations, forms, games such as collisions and timeouts. Collisions, by that I mean, two objects hitting each other, and timeout by meaning, a delay before something happens, like waiting, for a power up or some ability to be received. All these situations are examples of loaded functions in action. You prepare a function ahead of time, but don't run it until the right moment, like when a user clicks, data arrives, or an animation starts. This keeps your code efficient and predictable by controlling exactly when things happen. Let's quickly talk about side effects. A side effect is when a function changes a variable outside itself, updates the web page or DOM, logs something to the console, or sends data over the network. On the reverse side, a pure function only takes inputs and returns output. It doesn't touch anything else. Here we have an example of a pure function of essentially, returning a plus b. Nothing else, outside of this function is occurring. And it's an example of just a pure function. Returning functions helps delay side effects, and you can control when something actually changes or happens. And so this is, going into this idea of higher order functions and returning functions and the power of reducing those side effects. Now, this is used a lot, such as, in libraries like Lodash and React. And you might not know them yet, but these tools, Lodash and React hooks, Lodash is really a utility library. React hooks is for building user interfaces. Use this pattern all the time. So, for example, React has useState, and it allows you to return a function you call later to update that state. And all of that is, revolving around this idea we're talking about. Let's recap what we learned. A higher order function is a function that takes or returns another function. And it's important because it can help save behavior for later. You can think of this as like a vending machine where you load up soda cans in a machine and you don't give out those soda cans until someone makes a purchase. This is synonymous to all different parts of JavaScript. We saw it in the last video with addEventListeners. And the benefit of higher order functions is it helps reduce side effects and cleans up our code. And that's higher order functions. If you're building anything interactive, you're already using them. Give this video a like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss the next beginner-friendly JavaScript tutorial. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.